Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. We're going to be going over a new ceratopsian and early Jurassic dinosaur discovery. And we'll also be going over probably 4 to 6 different other species of dinosaurs as well. And we are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. So, from Sci News, new species of herbivorous dinosaur identified in Canada. Paleontologists in Canada have found the fossil fragments from a new species of leptoceratopsid dinosaur that walked the earth during the Cretaceous period. So, I'm guessing that this is probably going to take place much later into the Mesozoic era, so possibly well after 90 million years ago, which is around the time when we start seeing certain larger species of ceratopsian evolve, especially in certain parts of Asia and North America to an extent.
Those babies look funny.
This looks like some member of the Leptoceratopsid or possibly the Protoceratopsid lineage. It could be of another subfamily of ceratopsians, but in the, or at least by the late Cretaceous period, let's say 90 million years ago, many groups of ceratopsians still had yet to evolve. You had it where the ceratopsids, so animals such as Triceratops, Pachyrhinosaurus, Aranoceratops, still haven't evolved yet. And specifically, that family won't occur for another 8 million years, or probably 7 to 8 million years, being around 83 to 82 million years ago. And as well, the leptoceratopsids have not evolved yet, and the protoceratopsids. So right now, it's really just the basal ceratopsians that are existing. Yet the group evolved somewhere around 161 million years, somewhere between 161 to 165 million years ago. Let's go a little deeper. Interesting. They feathered the youngsters. The newly discovered dinosaur lived approximately 67 million years ago. Okay. Well, when it comes to this specific species, actually, hold on, named Ferrosaurus sustutensis, the prehistoric creature was about 5.7 feet or 1.75 meters long. Um, this is towards the last million years of the dinosaur's reign. So the ceratopsids, many of them had already evolved. Wait, were we not live?
No, we're live. I just didn't. Sorry. That's what we're talking about.
Um okay, so possibly, I don't think we know yet, but oh, no, it did mention earlier. So this is a member of the Leptoceratopsid lineage. It's very peculiar by the smaller frill shape towards the back of its skull, as well as the distinct side horns. That is a major trait that you would see in even earlier species of ceratopsian, much earlier into the Cretaceous. Not so peculiar in the ones back in the late Jurassic. So between 145 and 165 million years ago, the ceratopsians had very small horns, if any, at many cases, and most of them didn't have a frill either. I forgot to think they found this over in Canada. Interesting. Really, probably one of the only types of dinosaurs that this animal could fend itself from, at least when it comes to theropods, or smaller species of dromaeosaurs, which even then would probably be a big hassle for this herbivore to take on. It's barely um, 6 feet in length, or at this point, it's like right around 1.6 meters. It's fairly small. Oh, okay. So, we need to bring up another species of ceratopsian, a much larger one. So, monoclonius.
Cactus has said Tasmanian tiger. What? Tasmania tiger? What? I don't understand what they're asking.
Well, the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine, won't really evolve until the Pleistocene epoch. Now, I don't know specifically of when that marsupial first evolved um, during the end of the last ice age. So there's not much I can say about that. And even its ancestors at this point, though, are probably not much larger than a large, maybe gerbil, depending on the lineage of mammals.
Okay, what do you want me to pull?
Monoclonius. So Monoclonius. So this is going to be much more distant relative to animals like Triceratops. Wow. Okay. So they have it where he's possibly smushing or stomping like a dromaeosaur. Oh, they're not just having him do that. This is very possible for ceratopsians. They're having him. Um. Wow. Geez, what's the word? Dissect
What?
the
He's
dromaeosaur.
dissecting it.
Yeah, he's pulling out the I wouldn't call those, it's not the intestines because they'd be much further back, but whatever specific muscles from the pterosaur's neck or the top of the chest region. Wow. I wonder if
Oh, I didn't
they're
realize that.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
having the dromaeosaurs probably what is trying to be depicted is that the dromaeosaurs maybe killed all of its offspring. So the ceratopsian in this case is having revenge. It is very possible that this animal, as well as most ceratopsians in general, even the smaller ones, would have gored and not just with their horns, but with their beaks in this case, the predators that they were defending their herd from, or in this case, possibly their hatchlings.
Well,
So
I
this
like how
is
you always point out the fact that people think herbivores are friendly.
Yeah, in many cases, these herbivores, regardless of it being a species of ceratopsian, a long necked sauropod, just a dinosaur in general, a mammal, many of them tend to be much more aggressive than the carnivores. But it also can vary depending on the ecosystem that herbivore is inhabiting. If it really is quite plentiful and also year round in foliage to an extent, they can be a lot more docile, but there still comes to a point where if the predator or whatever other animal crosses a specific line, it doesn't matter. They're going to do everything to make sure that that carnivore doesn't just not come back, it doesn't live. So in that case with the monoclonius. Wow, this is a much older representation of the animal. And the ankylosaurs. They look like, that mysterious creature from The Land Before Time. I'm not sure what it was, but gosh, who would this be? Anyway, the monoclonius. This looks like a reconstruction from like the 1960s or maybe the 1950s. It could be more recent though. Just somebody decided to depict like the older representations of dinosaurs. So monoclonius is a member of the centrosaur family. And so it's the animal on the left, except in reality, kind of like the original picture, it would have a much more slender type of a build. But certain depictions of monoclonius, and especially when it comes to centrosaurs in general, tend to depict it as having a much wider sort of a body or a core in general. Now, looking at the like the maxilla part of the skull, which is the upper jaw. So, like even our upper jaw is the maxilla. It's going to be a bit shorter compared to certain other species of ceratopsians, such as different species of Pachyrhinosaurus, even members of the Chasmosaur lineage, such as Torosaurus, Triceratops. And also, when it comes to the eye socket horns of this animal, they are fairly short compared to its body size. It is a bit of a mystery as to why certain members of the Centrosaur family, even the Chasmosaur family to a certain extent, evolved such small eye socket horns, but decided to put a lot of their focus into the nasal horn, which
I
is right
I
above the
I
nostrils.
have one that's really well done.
Yep. Well, at least you can move its limbs, but it seems to be one of those you'd get in like certain collection. You still probably can toy boxes. Um, but yeah, this monoclonius. I mean, he's got a really fat tail, probably be a lot more slender. His overall frill shape is really not bad. The problem is lacking certain horn arrangements. The problem These animals look a bit more similar to a full-on like Centrosaurus. You also probably wouldn't have it where their young were attached to them like koala babies or tree sloth babies to an extent. They would likely be similar to the one in the water, but p- likely wouldn't take their. I'm not sure how old these hatchlings are supposed to be. They're probably quite young, maybe within the first year or two. Maybe if it's a calm stream or a creek, they can possibly get across, but even then, it's quite risky. This is supposed to take place over in Alberta, Canada, around 76 million years ago. So this could be as many as 10 to 11 million years. It's very possible that Monocolinus existed around 77 million years ago in Canada. So about 10 million years before this new species of Leptoceratopsid evolved. Now, the Leptoceratopsids were very present over in North America. They tend to be, in some cases, also a bit more present over in Montana, which is just south of Alberta. There were also different species of tyrannosaurs that existed during this time and in the same place. You would have had also a wide range of different floodplains, conifer forests, and a wide range of different species of hadrosaur or duckbill dinosaurs existing in the region too. But there were a wide range of different centrosaurs as well, not just monocolinus. But when it comes to this depiction, the frill is also a little too much like that of a Pachyrhinosaurus to an extent, at least when it comes to the horn structure on a couple of individuals on the top. The frill itself is not Pachyrhinosaurus like. It's something between a Monocolonius and certain smaller species with just thinner frills.
Well, the frill here looks one way.
Well,
The frill here looks a completely different way.
another thing is when it comes to the exterior shape, it's a bit more of like that of a more lightly built centrosaur, but the specific, like divided two areas with a little butterfly coloration. I'm not sure what else to call it. Um, is more of like that of certain chasmosaurs. So these animals are basically a hybrid, and there's something off with their eyes too.
How the baby's even holding on?
Well, that's why I said they're hanging on like koalas or tree sloth babies. And that shouldn't be the case. They would just be running, or in this case, swimming alongside their parents. It is very likely, though, that these animals were roaming in herds of well over 40 individuals. Okay, well, let's head back to. Oh, and these animals were likely feeding on different species of ferns and flowers. These were not carnivores. You could have had it, though, where now and then, if they were lacking calcium, they might have been feeding on certain bones of other species of dinosaurs that were just laying around. Um, in some cases, they might have been even eating like bad eggs or at least somewhat just eggs that have kind of gone dormant inside the nest.
Hold on, I found a couple more I just wanna put up.
That's actually a pretty good representation of a monoclonius. I think it just differs depending on the reconstruction of the frill. This seems a bit more similar to just like its own distinct look. It is interesting. This animal, at least when it comes to the frill, is quite different compared to um, different species of centrosaurs in general. It is almost a bit closer to a chasmosaur somewhat, but also having that centrosaur physique as well. Definitely the nasal horn is very centrosaur like. But in this case, you're giving him like a bloated area just above the beak, which is very possible. I do like how they gave them a small range of feathers just along the tail. It has been presumed with certain species of ceratopsians that they might have had feathers. We do have evidence with certain species, especially of the members of Psittacosauridae over in early Cretaceous China about 112 million years ago. And as well, we had the preserved color of it as well. And I think also something came out with certain sauropods recently with preserved color, but we'll go over that later. S- Um,
Video game.
Also, when it comes to this specific species of, oh no, I don't think it's a video game. I mean, maybe they have something, but it's like a drawing of a toy. Beast of the Mesozoic is a toy company. Um, I think it's a really good representation of the animal, but it is interesting. Um, I don't recall monoclonius having that type of a horn structure towards the top of the frill, but it certainly is possible. There were a number of centrosaur species that could have somewhat similar um, horn characteristics, especially around the top of the skull. So in some cases, it can be somewhat similar to Pachyrhinosaurus. Um, but when it comes
I
to
like that he was blue.
yeah, I like the overall coloring in general. What is it? Yeah, I think the legs are much better proportioned in this image, and also the core of the body is very centrosaur-like. So, just a bit rounder, having a larger, just wider rib cage, also helping indicate that this animal is very likely an herbivore. And the tail is much more slender as well. So this animal is probably 20 to 25 feet in length. They're pushing 6 to 7.7 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 2 to 2.5 tons. So it was a medium sized species of centrosaur. The chasmosaurs would become much larger. But they had already evolved at this point, at least a few species.
Okay, I only have one left.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen, one of these types of, well, a variety of these pictures before, but this one, I don't think I'm too familiar with. Were there palm trees over in Alberta, Canada during the late Cretaceous? I don't believe we have any, like, really any evidence for this, and considering I wouldn't necessarily classify Alberta at this point as really being a tropical or, to an extent, even a subtropical climate. It did experience, massive cold shifts during this time. Now, the monoclonius, the problem is that the legs in this depiction are too skinny. The claws seem rather long. There are certain herbivores that can have quite long claws when looking at certain members of the mammalian family as you head later into the Cenozoic era, the time of mammal, especially around the Oligocene and Miocene epochs. But for a monoclonius, it seems a bit too long. They do rather put a lot of emphasis into that frill, though. It still wasn't a bad picture. I'm guessing that's from maybe the 1940s or 1950s. So back to this small creature that was discovered,
What are we talking about?
a Leptoceratops. I mean, a member of the Leptoceratopsid lineage of ceratopsians. So a small relative of Triceratops, but seems to have been coexisting with Triceratops, considering 67 million years ago. And Triceratops was ruling Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota at this point. It probably weighed about 150 kilograms or 330 pounds, similar in size to a bighorn sheep. Wow, that's heavy for a 5'7" long animal or 1.75 meters. That's massive. A partial skeleton of Pherosaurus sustensis was collected from the Sustut group of the southern Sustut Basin.
So Stoot.
Yeah, I think it's some North American Indian name. A large but relatively unexplored terrestrial Cretaceous basin in northern British Columbia, Canada. Oh, we're British Columbia. Hey, this is great to know, considering most of the ceratopsians are coming in from Alberta, which is great to um, hear in general. But it's just really good that we got something in for British Columbia, considering most fossils coming in from British Columbia usually are marine reptiles or just fragmentary remains. I believe it was earlier this year, not too long ago, that we found a new species of ornithomimid coming in from British Columbia, but it was very fragmentary. Like, I believe we only found a leg bone. So, it just didn't match any other species of ornithomimid that we found, or an ostrich-like dinosaur, like Gallimimus. Said Dr. Victoria Arbour of the Royal British Columbia Museum and Dr. David Evans of the Royal Ontario Museum and the University of Toronto. Herbivorous Dinosaur belongs to Leptoceratopsidae, a family of hornless parrot-beaked. They weren't hornless. They just didn't have the extravagant horns of their much larger relatives. Parrot-beaked plant-eating dinosaurs closely related to the Triceratops. I wouldn't exactly say that they were closely related, considering they don't belong to the Chasmosaur or Centrosaur lineage, but they're more closely related to a Triceratops than something like a Stegosaurus or a Brachiosaurus. Or in this case, in the late Cretaceous, a lambeosaur, a member of the hadrosaur family, or um, like an Albertosaurus, member of the tyrannosaur family. So the skeleton of Ferrosaurus sustuensis includes parts of the pectoral girdles, left forelimb, left hind limb, and right pes. It can be distinguished from other named leptoceratopsids based on the proportions of the ulna and pedal phalanges. So it sounds like we found a great deal of this creature because we did. I'm guessing she's looking at those exact bones coming from the specimen. According to the team, Ferrosaurus sistoensis is the first unique dinosaur species reported from British Columbia. Aside that ornithomimid, unless I mixed them up with somewhere else. I swear it was British Columbia, but maybe also with um, this much variety, at least when it comes to the bones itself. Wow, that is astonishing. I find that a bit hard to believe. Like, I swear there was another dinosaur or two from here. Maybe it was just marine reptiles. By studying its bones and other fossils from the same region, we're learning what British Columbia was like during the age of dinosaurs 67 million years ago. Because so much of this province is mountainous and forested, evidence of British Columbia's dinosaurs is challenging to find. You might as well recognize this small portion of British Columbia as part of Greater Alberta at this point, um, because of how there are almost no dinosaurs coming from here. Okay, let's bring up um, somebody else. Who was it specifically? Um, think Mancharosaurus is who we should bring up. So Manchaurasaurus. I have to double check, make sure I'm spelling that right.
You're not. Oh, you are. No, you're not. Wait.
No, I'm not. Manchurosaurus is who I wanted.
I got it, but it's not fixing it. That's weird. Okay.
Want me to respell it?
No, I got it.
So this
Oh,
is
hold on.
MAND.
No, I have it. No, MANS. Is it a sauropod?
No. It's a hadrosaur.
Okay, spell it.
MANDSCHUR. Okay, there we go. Yeah, because this is yeah, it's not a species of sauropod, and it does not come from Canada either. This animal is actually found along the Amur River of Russia, possibly adjacent to China. I believe the Amur River runs through Russia and China.
Here you go.
Yes, here we go. And someone either has a problem or this is impossible for the hadrosaur to lift up its arm in this specific way. And another thing that's
What's a different hadrosaur? He's drowning.
well, not just that. Hadrosaurs had a hoof like foot. That would not have been portrayed in. Basically, this is very unlikely to occur.
You mean it has a hand and it should have had a hoof?
Yeah. I mean, the
Maybe it's
pinky.
another dinosaur trying to drag it down.
It could be a ceratopsian, but ceratopsians wouldn't have the two clawed areas, but also could be mistakenly portrayed. So let's see. Yeah, it's probably trying to depict Russia back then. There were different conifer forests, and Manchurosaurus is a species of hadrosaur that existed in Russia about 72 million years ago. So after the monoclonius ceratopsian had gone extinct over in Canada. But before this new species of ceratopsid that was discovered. Is that him? Almost looks like a stegosaur to an extent. That is a very odd depiction of the skull of this specific species.
Well,
Oh, well, that okay, yeah, that looks a lot better. This is one of those species of hadrosaurs where the arms, especially the forearms, as you notice,
is that a toy?
are pretty skinny. I think it's just a model. I don't
Hold
think
on.
it's necessarily a toy.
Wait.
Oh, whoa, wow. Never mind. Yeah, that looks good. Just like a Korean or Japanese company.
Don't know. I don't speak whatever that is.
Yeah, true. He's got very small feet compared to his body size, though. I haven't take. I'm not sure if we found the feet of this exact species of herbivore, though. I do recall, considering this animal was found, I think described back in like 1925, and um, it was or originally classified, I believe, as a species of Trachodon. Trachodon, however, is from North America and was originally described by Edward Drinker Cope, I believe, back in 1878. So, but then a wide variety of different paleontologists got a hold of this animal and recognized it as its own distinct genus and not a Trachodon.
They have hands too.
Trachodon is only represented by fragmentary remains,
Look,
part of the maxilla, upper teeth. Yeah, that's weird.
that looks more like a.
Yeah, they have it where they're separated. They would have been more in like a hoof-like structure, even earlier into the iguanodontid lineage. The lineage of dinosaurs that the hadrosaurs evolved from would have had a hoof-like structure on their front feet. This would not have occurred, however, on their hind feet, which is rather interesting considering when you look at many species of herbivores, at least when it comes to mammals, later into the Cenozoic era, they evolved a hoof-like structure. Many of the ungulates or the two-toed animals, such as deer, giraffes, um, they would have simply have had the similar set or the same set of toes or the same foot structure on both their front and forelegs. This is not the case, however, with the different species of iguanodontids or the hadrosaurs, the ornithopods in general, which is what the iguanodontids and the hadrosaurs belong to. Who do we have here?
It says it. That's what it is.
Well, okay, yeah, we've seen this picture before. I forgot what book it comes from. I think it's like 1960s or 1950s. I'm not sure if it's supposed to represent like a T-Rex or maybe it's an Allosaurus. That's possible. It has a lot of problems. The arms are like even the upper arm could use some more muscle. The claws are far too short compared to its body size. Allosaurus had pretty long fingers as well, or phalanges. And then the hind limbs. So we're talking about a species of carnivore now from the late Jurassic, about 150 million years ago, that roamed Colorado, Wyoming, Utah. It ruled pretty much at least Western North America. Um, but let's see, the toes, it's also what it appears to be walking on its ankle, like a kangaroo, a human, a brown bear. That would not be occurring. It's got a major problem at that rate. It should be only walking on its toes, and its tail should not be on the ground. It should not be walking this stature.
Sure, someone's having a bad day.
And the skull's fairly far off. Who do we have here? Manchurosaurus being hunted by some species of mysterious tyrannosaur. It could be representing maybe a Kasianosaurus, which is a species of tyrannosaur from late Cretaceous, northern China, and is possibly southern Russia. So they might have come into contact with each other. This would probably be a much smaller Manchurosaurus individual. This animal dwarfed Kasianosaurus. Kasianosaurus was only somewhere around maybe 18 to 20 feet in length, or pushing somewhere around 5.3 to 6 meters, and the probably only weighed maybe 1,800 pounds, or pushing somewhere around 800 to 850 kilograms. The Manchurosaurus at full size could probably reach somewhere around 20 to 22 feet in length, or 6.8 meters, but still weigh up to 2 tons, or well over 4,000 pounds, or pushing about what 1,800 kilograms. So, dwarfing the Kasianosaurus, easily smushing it. So it's probably a younger individual, but a very muscular neck that gave the Manchurosaurus. But they also made the Kasianosaurus extremely robust. I have to double check to see if we have any other larger carnivores, especially Tyrannosaurus in the area. But I'm guessing coming in from Russia, especially at this point in the Cretaceous, around 72 million years ago, they might be based on fragmentary remains.
I think this guy had some drops in his eyes. He's
Yeah.
dilated.
Yeah, he's, probably. Oh, yeah, that older depiction. I think we saw that for, like, some mere seconds. Oh, there's more. Okay, because so much of this province is mountainous and forested, evidence of British Columbia's dinosaurs is challenging to find. I don't think it's really just that. I think it's also the specific geological units or the geological basins make it a lot harder to discover certain types of dinosaurs. Also, the types of deposits, whether it's marine, terrestrial, the skeleton of Herbivorous tensis is now in the Royal British Columbia Museum's paleontological collections. The recognition of Ferrosaurus tensis as a distinct species of a generally rare group of small bodied dinosaurs highlights the potential for future discoveries of unique dinosaur biodiversity. Wow, they're even putting it with dinosaurs now. I thought that was just something for, well, I mean, I'd seen it for years with current animals. Anyway, within the intermontane basins of the western side of the North American Cordillera. Okay, well, it's good to see that we have a Leptoceratopsid coming in from British Columbia. This is a massive achievement for Canada. Okay, let's head to another part of the world and possibly further back in time. So, from Sci News, meet Nguevu in Toloco, new Jurassic dinosaur from South Africa. A new genus and species of sauropodomorph dinosaur has been described after its fossilized remains spent more than 3 decades sitting in a museum. Well, once again, we have it where a dinosaur was once again ignored in a laboratory or an institute.
The amount of dinosaurs we keep finding articles on like that is amazing.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's fine, but more exciting when it comes from the site. At least at that current time, because it did. Interesting, because at first glance, I was thinking, "Oh, maybe it's some early Jurassic theropod, so some carnivorous dinosaur." But nope.
Is that head tiny or is it just me?
Yeah, it is. I wonder if it's a juvenile or possibly a hatchling of some sort. But there also seems to be a wide variety of this specific species. At least that's the guess at the moment that they discovered. But there seems to be different types of like eye socket structures and anorbital fenestra structures. So that specific hole, the anorbital fenestra, is located between the eye socket and the nostril of every single species of dinosaur. You can also find it on every bird and technically crocodilians today, even though crocodilians are not dinosaurs. Okay, let's see. The newly identified dinosaur species named Nguevu in Tloko lived between 191 and 201 million years ago, early Jurassic epoch in what is now South Africa. So it could be right after the Triassic mass extinction that this animal first evolved. The ancient creature was bipedal with a fairly chunky body. Well, there's something you don't hear often when it comes to the sauropodomorphs. Now, you have it where these animals were herbivores, so they're going to need a very wide stomach. And a lot of herbivores can have a somewhat um, roundish appearance to them. A long, slender neck and a small, boxy head. And that's very typical, especially when it comes to the boxy head for sauropod dinosaurs. I mean, prosauropods. Sauropods, like their descendants, would create a wide variety of different skull structures. Box headed types, though, I wouldn't necessarily say that's very common. It would have measured about 10 feet or 3 meters from the tip of its snout to the end of its tail, likely or was likely an omnivore, so feeding on both plants and small animals. It is not necessarily unheard of for different species of prosauropods, especially as you head towards the Triassic period. So before 201 million years ago, to have occasionally fed on animal protein. It was interesting because when looking at the tooth structure of the skull, it did seem to have a sort of leaf shaped type of tooth structure, which is really something that you see on a wide variety of different species of sauropod dinosaurs later on, and as well prosauropods from the Triassic and early Jurassic. And then it also had a bit of like a knife like tooth, which is what you see on practically all theropod dinosaurs. Well, if you leave out like the ornithomimids and therizinosaurs. Where was I? Okay. Nicuevo Intloco's fossilized remains were collected in 1978 by paleontologist Professor James W. Kitching. Okay, let's bring up. We need to bring up another species of, well, a species of theropod. So Monolophosaurus, Monolophosaurus. This this animal that I'm mentioning is not a species of prosauropod. It likely did hunt certain species. This animal also
Wait, is
existed.
this any good?
I guess for an AI picture, it's not bad for a Monolophosaurus. The crest, though, um, hmm, I'm not sure. Even the bottom jaw. And when it comes to the tail structure, there's something about it where it seems a little too robust, but I guess you could say it's somewhat okay. Now, the question is, well, the thing is that it seems to be depicting it as a bit of a fish eater. I don't know of any evidence that we have of Monolophosaurus feeding exclusively on fish. Whoa. Okay, so they added a lot of emphasis to this individual. Wow. They gave it that distinct, like, bird sack and distinctive, um, just flesh. These would be like specific types of characteristics that would help this animal attract mates during the breeding season. Probably intimidate other males that have a smaller type of, um, like fleshy appearance. And specifically when it comes to the crest, they added a lot of detail, adding almost like small osteoderms or feathers along the top of the crest. And they also gave it feathers, and also depicting this as having a bit of a, um, probably a pretty violent life considering he has teeth exposed beyond the lips, and the lips in general would be protecting their teeth. Okay, these are definitely a much older depiction. They're depicting Monolophosaurus as a bit skinny, which is not necessarily uncommon in different older reconstructions of Monolophosaurus. So this animal existed over in China around 163 million years ago during the mid Jurassic. So this was far after the prosauropods went extinct. I might have mentioned slightly earlier that they were probably feeding on them. They might have hunted smaller sauropod juveniles at this point in China, like earlier relatives of like the giant Mamenchosaurus. But the prosauropods had already gone extinct, and the sauropods had already been roaming the Earth for probably around 8 to 10 million years at this point. So Monolophosaurus was probably reaching somewhere around 18 to 20 feet in length. They're pushing around 5.3 to 6 meters and might have weighed somewhere around 1,800 to 2,200 pounds or pushing somewhere around 800 to 900 kilograms. And this animal might have had feathers. We don't really have any evidence at this moment for like preserved skin remnants of Monolophosaurus showing it had feathers, but it's very probable, and especially for other species of earlier theropod at this point. Also, when it comes to the major family of theropod dinosaurs that Monolophosaurus belonged to, it belonged to the Tetonarian lineage of theropods. Now, it's technically a very basic branch of theropods, considering it constitutes the Allosaurids, the Megalosauroids, the Tyrannosaurs, the Coelurosaurs in general. However, it only starts off probably around 201 million years ago, or towards the very beginning of the Jurassic. All of the theropods that evolved beforehand, between like 233 million years ago, about 202 million years ago, were not a part of this lineage, but they were likely the ancestors to the Tetonarians. So, a very obviously large, successful group. So, it consists of the Spinosaurs, the Carcharodontosaurs, Megaraptorids, the Dromaeosaurs, a very large group. The Monolophosaurus was one of the older members of, but it had technically already existed for well over 35 million years. Let's see. I guess we can go back to the article. Yeah, the crest was likely used to help attract mates. Yeah, I think that was the problem with that original picture was that it was a bit too thin and narrow jawed. Monolophosaurus, especially for its time, didn't necessarily have a delicate jaw structure. It was probably able, with some capability to come into contact with bone or efficiently gnaw on it. Professor Paul Barrett and colleagues reassessed the specimens, which are held at the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg. They used the dinosaur's distinctive skull and partial skeleton to identify it as a new genus and species of sauropodomorph. Lots of other scientists have already looked at it, but they all thought that it was simply an odd example of Massospondylus. Right, this guy. Yeah, Massospondylus is one of the more renowned species of prosauropods from the early Jurassic. So existing between like 190 to 195 million years ago, this animal does pop up in certain South African sediments. One of the first dinosaurs to reign at the start of the Jurassic period. Yeah, it possibly existed further back to about 200 million years ago. Really varies with certain dinosaur genre can sometimes extend for over 10 million years. Usually because they had a wide range of species that they created. Yeah, this looks like a very basal Massospondylus. Definitely an earlier depiction. That wasn't really a robust or a heavily built species of prosauropod, but it did have that distinct elongated neck. There were certain prosauropods where, despite being part of the lineage, did not have very long necks. Um, Also, certain species didn't have very long tails either. And I'm not even referring to much earlier in their evolution, like around 235 to 238 million years ago, but even much later into the early Jurassic. But in this case, with Massospondylus, it has a long, slender tail. And as well, when it comes to the arms, they're quite small compared to its body size. I believe for the most part, it seems to have been bipedal, so really only walking on two legs. The findings will help paleontologists better understand the transition between the Triassic and Jurassic periods around 200 million years ago. Known as a time of mass extinction, it now seems that more complex ecosystems were flourishing in the earliest Jurassic than previously thought. Well, I think we've already known this for quite some time. And because you had it where different lineages of proto-mammals, so when referring to the end of the Triassic around 201 to 202 million years ago, you could technically even go further back or travel further back. Different species of proto-mammals, different species or lineages of dinosaurs had already gone extinct much earlier into the Triassic. It was just that the Triassic extinction was a bit larger, and so I'd say the largest of the Triassic. You had over a wide range of different lineages of archosaurs, certain types of marine reptiles, less so the pterosaurs to an extent, were or had just simply died out, but still a wide range of other different types of dinosaurs, or archosaurs in general, like the pseudosuchians. So what would become the later crocodilomorphs, would live on. Like we even have evidence over in different like cooler regions, like towards the poles, where dinosaurs were thriving even towards the end of the Triassic. So I wouldn't call this necessarily new or surprising.
So basically, when they claim when something heats up, there's a problem, it doesn't necessarily mean there was a problem. It just means the earth is changing.
It depends on what animals you're talking about, but yeah. In this case, with the beginning of the Jurassic, yes, it was. Well, I'd say towards the late Triassic, we're actually experiencing a somewhat cooling event to an extent, or at least there is evidence for cooler temperatures occurring.
No, I mean, you're
And
saying that where these were found, it was actually warmer.
I don't think it really mentioned anything about weather.
No, but to have these dinosaurs there, it couldn't have been 20 degree or 20 below zero.
Um, yeah, probably it's probably unlikely. I'd say it certainly was possible, but you had certain small segments of the Mesozoic era where temperatures like that probably could occur. If you're talking about Fahrenheit.
I'm talking about where a sauropod would be.
Oh, well, I mean, well, if you're referring specifically to sauropods, yes, we don't have any evidence for long neck sauropods existing in extremely cool areas. We do have evidence for smaller prosauropods in this instance, like not necessarily massive spondylus, but other species existing in cooler areas. And then later into like the Cretaceous period, and with different species of ceratopsians, hadrosaurs. But yeah, the warmer temperatures would benefit the sauropods later on into the Jurassic as well as the theropods. But it wasn't just that; it was different oxygen events that were occurring. Also, different changes in the ecosystems as well. So having it where it's probably much more nutritional foliage occurring, so that would help supply these 40-ton giants. And you also had it where their own tooth structure was benefiting them as well. So they don't have to go up to different types of plants and efficiently chew them like later species of dinosaurs would, or even mammals. You could just simply rip them off and swallow them whole. Let's see, where else? This new species is interesting because we thought previously that there was really one type of sauropodomorph living in South Africa at this time. We now know there were actually 6 or 7 of these dinosaurs in this area. South Africa is well renowned for different species of prosauropods in general, certain types of theropods as well. Um, Not specifically Monolophosaurus because it's only located over in China, but also a wide variety of ornithopods were about to evolve as well. Well, technically, yeah, if you're referring to when it's referring to this prosauropod about 195 million years ago.
That was funny. If you're referring to when it's referring to
Yeah, I was a bit redundant.
that was funny though.
As well as a variety of other dinosaurs from less common groups. It means that their ecology was much more complex than we used to think. Some of these other sauropodomorphs were like Massospondylus, but a few were close to the origins of true sauropods, if not true sauropods themselves. Um, Yeah, I'm going to have to go back over what specific prosauropods they're referring to, especially when it comes to the origin of sauropods, because you had a wide range of prosauropods that were still existing towards the later early Jurassic, around 185 to 190 million years ago. Really, sauropods don't start showing up until about 180 million years ago. Okay, well, thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Happy International Leptoceratopsid Day. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and